She didn't trip, didn't lose her footing, didn't lean too far or dawdle on the edge of the stairs. She was pushed. Right at the top of Windsor's steepest stone staircase, by the one person who should have never laid a hand on her, and the only reason Princess Charlotte didn't fall was because a royal guard dove to catch her. He didn't hesitate, didn't wait for orders, didn't care who was watching. He moved. Now, before we show you the exact moment his body hit the stone and the consequences that echoed across the palace, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from, tap like, hit subscribe, and make sure that bell icon is turned on. Because what happened on that staircase wasn't an accident, it was a reckoning. The afternoon light cut low across the upper gallery of Windsor Castle, slicing golden rectangles onto polished stone and centuries-old portraits. It was a transition hour, that brief, almost reverent pause between engagements when the palace exhaled and footsteps echoed with clarity rather than clamour. Princess Charlotte walked with quiet composure, her polished black shoes tapping evenly along the corridor's limestone edge. In her hand, she held a folded schedule card, pale parchment, hand-lettered, still creased from where it had been tucked into her blazer. She was descending alone, in a way, not without escort, but without crowd. Beside her walked Miss Hensley, a senior attendant from the educational wing, dressed in discreet navy, posture upright but maternal in motion. 10 steps behind, his ceremonial boots clicking softer on the ancient stone, moved Sergeant Elias Rourke. Coldstream Guard, 39 years old, helmed veteran, posture square as his jawline. His tall black bearskin hat swayed gently with the rhythm of his measured stride. His crimson tunic caught the light like a burning seal, each gold button catching and releasing the hallway's natural shimmer. He walked as he always did, not to follow, not to lead, but to watch. The staircase awaited at the corridor's end, long, curved, descending in 3 angled flights like a script written in stone. Known among palace staff as the Hollow Stair, it was originally built for servants and carriages of the Georgian wing, but had since become a functional thoroughfare between staterooms and private quarters. It was not made for children. And Charlotte, still clutching her schedule, had reached its edge. Rourke's gaze, ever vigilant, softened slightly at the corners. He knew this moment, the one where even young heirs forgot they were watched, and simply became small humans navigating tall architecture. He adjusted his stance slightly, reflexive, subtle. But then the gallery's air shifted. A door to the side corridor snapped open. Not flung, not slammed, but intentional. A breath of colder air trailed behind it. Queen Camilla entered the hall. No entourage, no announcement. Just gloved hands, smoothing the edges of a pearl grey coat, her pace clipped, shoulders tight. Rourke's eyes registered her position instantly, precisely 6 paces behind the princess now, angling inward toward the same staircase. She was supposed to be attending a floral trust review. Something had changed. Charlotte, sensing the movement, turned slightly. "Good afternoon, ma'am," she said, soft but respectful. Camilla didn't return the smile. "You're late," she replied, even though Charlotte wasn't. The temperature dropped by degrees. Camilla walked closer, not alongside the girl, but directly behind, as if correcting her proximity. "Posture," she snapped. "Shoulders back, head up." Charlotte adjusted instantly. Rourke noted the tone. Something wasn't right. Camilla's voice again. "Don't drag your heels. Walk like you belong in this place." Charlotte didn't respond this time, but her next step was faster, tighter, her shoulders clenched. Rourke narrowed his eyes. Camilla had moved closer again, not touching, but too near. They were now approaching the topmost step, the first stone of the hollow stair, and in the few feet that remained, Sergeant Rourke shifted forward just slightly. He didn't know why, only that something about the tilt in Camilla's spine, the edge in her voice, and the subtle way Charlotte's feet had drawn together, told him something was about to go wrong. Charlotte's foot hovered over the first step. Camilla's tone sharpened behind her. "You're not sashaying into a garden party. Walk straight." The princess tried to obey. She stepped forward with care, chin lifted, shoulders square. But the words had lodged somewhere behind her ribcage, making her small frame stiffen, not straighten. Her fingers tightened around the parchment schedule as she placed her shoe on the smooth stone. Camilla's voice again. "Faster. You're hesitating. It looks weak." From halfway down the gallery, Sergeant Elias Rourke's body shifted a fraction. Not alarmed, not tense, just focused. He had seen soldiers freeze in doorways, seen how hesitation made someone a target, even when no shot was fired. There was something in Charlotte's silence that told him she was being spoken to, not spoken with. Then it happened. Camilla's hand reached forward, not violently, not like a strike, but with the precision of someone asserting ownership. She gripped Charlotte's upper arm. The princess flinched. It wasn't dramatic. It was the reflex of a child taught to expect disapproval in silence. Her shoulder jerked slightly away. Camilla's fingers closed tighter. "I said, move!" she snapped, and with one sudden motion, small but sharp, she gave a forward push. Charlotte's heel slipped. Her left foot missed the depth of the first stair entirely, catching air instead of stone. The parchment schedule tumbled from her hand. Her weight pitched forward, and just like that, the angle was wrong. The momentum tipped. Gravity took hold. Her foot tried to find the second step. It didn't. She began to fall. Sergeant Rourke didn't hear it. He felt it. The way her balance shifted. The speed of the stumble. The vacuum of noise that came in the second before a child cries. He moved. 2 strides, full force. Ceremonial boots scraped against stone as his centre of gravity dropped low and forward. One arm extended, fingers already unsheathing from his white-gloved hand. The steep, curved staircase blurred beneath him. Charlotte's figure lurched forward into the descent. Rourke dove. It wasn't graceful. His shoulder slammed the edge of the second stair as he twisted sideways mid-air. One boot clipped the brass banister, the other scraped hard against polished limestone. The impact rattled his teeth, but his arm found her. His left hand caught the back of her blazer. The other clamped around her waist, with just enough control to pull her weight inward. Her knees struck a stair, but he absorbed most of the collision. Back slamming against the edge of a lower riser as he twisted their bodies to take the brunt. She didn't scream. Not at first. Her breath caught in her throat as she folded into his chest, her hands clawing instinctively for fabric, not from recognition, but from sheer human instinct, to grab hold of the only solid thing in a tumbling world. The staircase shuddered under the scuffle. Silence followed. Then the echo of rushing footsteps from above. Miss Hensley screamed. A steward dropped a clipboard. And at the top of the stairs, Camilla didn't run. She didn't gasp. She didn't kneel. She only looked down, lips pressed tight, as if annoyed something had gone messy. Sergeant Rourke tightened his grip around the princess. She was shaking. He didn't speak yet. He only pressed his palm between her shoulder blades and braced his legs beneath them, because the fall hadn't finished. And the silence that followed might still be the most dangerous descent of all. The stairwell echoed with the sound of sliding fabric and clipped breaths. Charlotte's body had come to a stop, but her mind hadn't caught up. Her knees were pressed against Sergeant Rourke's thigh, her right arm trembling against his chest. Her head was tucked down, eyes squeezed shut, hair half fallen over her face. The guard was lying twisted, one leg braced awkwardly against the lower edge of the stone wall, the other planted firmly behind a stair post, forming a locked cradle of muscle and position to hold her steady. He didn't speak. Not yet. His ribs were screaming. A lightning jolt ran down the length of his right arm, and he could feel the deep burn of a fresh scrape through his glove. But he ignored all of it. Charlotte was holding on, not out of recognition, but desperation. She still hadn't looked up. Behind them, voices gathered. Miss Hensley's steps were coming fast. "Oh, God! Charlotte, hold on, hold on! Call security! Call the medical steward!" The first of the junior staff reached the mid-landing, breathless. One tried to step forward towards Charlotte, but Rourke barked, low, measured, but commanding. "Don't touch her." The aide froze. Not out of defiance, but because something about the tone carried weight beyond ceremony. Rourke shifted slightly, and pain bit into his side. He gritted his teeth, adjusted his hold. "Princess Charlotte," he said quietly, voice even despite the pain. "It's all right. You're secure. I've got you. Can you hear me?" She blinked, didn't speak, but her fingers shifted. They loosened slightly, still gripping his tunic, but not as tightly. Her body weight adjusted too, less of a collapse, more of a brace. He angled his neck to make eye contact, though her hair still fell across one cheek. "Don't look down," he said, calm and grounded. "Just breathe." Charlotte gave a small nod, barely more than a twitch. Above them, Camilla finally descended one step. Not two, not rushing, just one. Her voice called downward, but not with concern. She startled herself. The words sliced the air. Rourke didn't react. Charlotte did. Her breath hitched again. Her arms pulled inward. Miss Hensley arrived just behind them. "Let me help lift her." "No," Rourke said, still composed. "She's stable. We don't move until she's breathing evenly." "I am breathing," Charlotte said suddenly, her voice brittle. Everyone paused. She hadn't spoken since the fall. Now her voice came through a tremble, cracked, scared, but trying to be strong. Rourke looked at her again. "Can you sit up?" he asked gently. She nodded, this time stronger. Together, slowly they shifted. He adjusted his position behind her, letting her lean against the wall instead of him. She tucked her legs underneath herself. Her hands still shook, but her eyes were open now. She looked down at the stone stair, then up at him. "You caught me." "I tried," he said. "I'll do better next time." Charlotte blinked. A tear fell. But she didn't wipe it away. Camilla had descended another step now, her voice carried down once again, colder this time. She should have been more careful. Miss Hensley turned sharply. She was pushed. Camilla didn't respond. Charlotte bowed her head again, not in shame, but to disappear. Rourke forced himself upright, his body slow, deliberate. One hand on the stair railing, one palm steady behind Charlotte. Every muscle protested, but he rose anyway, because someone had to stand, and if no one else would shield her from the words, he would. Again. Camilla's heels clicked once more against the upper landing before descending fully into view. She did not rush, did not kneel, did not speak Charlotte's name. Instead, her expression had calcified into something polished and faintly annoyed, as if this entire moment had upended her timing more than her conscience. The cluster of aides parted as she approached, more from habit than invitation. Sergeant Rourke stood now, posture stiffened not just by injury but by something heavier. His right arm remained slightly bent behind him, angled to shield Charlotte, who sat against the stair wall, shoulders hunched forward, eyes cast down. "She startled herself," Camilla repeated as she came to a stop 2 steps above them. "I saw it clearly. She lost her balance while dawdling." Rourke said nothing. Miss Hensley stepped closer, voice sharp with disbelief. "Dawdling? Ma'am, with respect, she was walking properly. You—" Camilla cut her off with a look. "She leaned and slipped. And now everyone's making a scene." Charlotte flinched at the tone, her fingers curled tighter against her coat. Rourke finally spoke. "No, ma'am, that's not what happened." Camilla's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me, I witnessed direct contact," Rourke said evenly, "from you to the princess's arm, followed by a forward shove." His voice was calm, not accusing, just factual. Camilla's expression hardened. "I corrected her posture, lightly. She moved into her own fall." "Children don't fall like that without help," Miss Hensley muttered. Camilla ignored her. "And you—" She turned to Rourke now, voice tightening. You threw yourself down a staircase like some over-eager drama student. You could have made it worse. I intercepted her descent, Rourke said. If I hadn't, she would have fallen another 30 stairs. Possibly more. Possibly, Camilla echoed dryly. But you've managed to create a spectacle either way. Charlotte's breath hitched again. She looked up, lips parted, but no sound came. Camilla's gaze landed on her. You need to stop this crying. You're not a toddler. That was enough. Rourke stepped forward slightly, not aggressive but deliberate. Ma'am, he said, voice low but resonant, with respect, this staircase is not a place for confrontation. What happened here was not an accident. Camilla blinked once slowly. You forget your station, she said. No, ma'am, he said. I remember who I'm posted to protect. The air thickened. Charlotte looked up, not just with fear, but with something else now, recognition. Someone was naming the thing she wasn't allowed to. Camilla's tone dropped a degree colder. Sergeant, I will not tolerate insubordination. I suggest you remember the hierarchy within these walls. I do, he replied. That's why I'm standing where I am. Behind him, Charlotte's breathing had begun to regulate. Not gone, not calm, but no longer spiralling. Miss Hensley moved to her side, crouching to check for bruises. Camilla stepped forward once more, only to be met with Rourke's presence directly in her path. She stared at him, lips thin, but he didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't defer. And in that silence something shifted, because what began as a fall had now become a line, drawn not in policy, but in posture. Camilla lingered on the stair just above him, staring down at Sergeant Elias Rourke, as if waiting for the moment he would remember himself, or at least pretend to, but he didn't move, he didn't even shift his weight. He stood tall, pain rooted invisibly in the way his right arm hung slightly stiff, in the way his jaw had gone still. The long crimson line of his uniform split the stairwell like a barrier, not just between Camilla and Charlotte, but between authority and conscience. You are a soldier, Camilla said, her voice cold and clipped. Not a parent, not a peer. You follow orders. You protect the crown. I protect its future, Rourke replied quietly. She is its future. Charlotte didn't speak, but her eyes were on his back now, wide and still red-rimmed, watching this unfold from where she sat, tucked beside Miss Hensley's coat. Camilla took another half-step forward. You think this is bravery? She snapped, standing in front of me like some stiff-necked prop in red wool. Rourke didn't blink. No, ma'am. I think this is responsibility, she scoffed. You're lucky I don't have you removed on the spot. You already tried, he said, from the top of the stairs. The words weren't loud, but they didn't need to be. Camilla's expression fractured for half a beat. Not in guilt, but in disbelief that he'd said it aloud. You've forgotten who you're speaking to, she hissed. No, Rourke said calmly. I haven't. That's why I'm choosing my words carefully. He adjusted his stance, not aggressively, just to fully block the path between Camilla and Charlotte, who had now pulled her knees toward her chest. I've worn this uniform across 3 continents, he continued, in cities where protocol meant little, and danger wore no rank. I've seen what happens when children trust the wrong adults. Camilla's hand hovered near the banister, fingers tightening. And I've served monarchs who understood that loyalty is earned, he added, eyes still steady, not extracted through fear. Camilla bristled. You're implying treason. I'm implying that a princess should never have to flinch when a hand reaches for her. Silence filled the stairwell. Behind Camilla, 2 stewards had quietly arrived. One of them carried a medical pouch. The other stood uneasily near the top rail, eyes darting between faces, unsure where to look. Camilla glanced back, then turned once more to the guard. You think this wins you favour? She asked, voice quieter now. A commendation? A medal? No, Rourke said. It's not meant to win anything. She stared at him. He took one final step. Not up, not down, just firm. It's meant to stop her from falling again. Camilla didn't answer, not aloud. But she stepped back. Not far, just enough for the stair between them to return to stone. Rourke didn't turn to celebrate, didn't look to anyone for reaction. He kept his feet planted. His oath wasn't to obedience, it was to integrity. And sometimes the strongest wall a soldier could build was standing still. The upper gallery's tension hadn't eased. It had only deepened into silence, the kind of silence that follows a breach of unspoken order. Sergeant Rourke remained where he was, standing firm between Camilla and the child she had nearly sent tumbling into stone. Charlotte was seated now, shoulders curled inward beneath her navy coat, legs pulled close, head tilted downward. Miss Hensley crouched beside her, rubbing gentle circles across her back. But it was Charlotte's eyes, wide, glassy, fixed on the guard's silhouette that held the corridor in place. And then came the echo. Not of heels, not of running. Boots. Quick, sharp, controlled. Two figures emerged from the far end of the corridor at once. Prince William led, Catherine just behind, neither flanked by staff. They hadn't waited for protocol. William's gaze took in everything in a single sweep. The broken circle of aides, the stairs, the princess on the stone, the guard standing like a barricade, and Camilla. Lower down now, not speaking. "Charlotte!" Catherine's voice broke the stillness. She didn't wait for answers. She moved fast and warm, not with panic, but with a mother's precision. Down the first sphere, then the second. Her coat swished as she dropped to her knees beside Miss Hensley and wrapped both arms around her daughter. Charlotte broke the moment she was touched. Her breath hitched. Her hands clutched her mother's sleeve. Her face collapsed into Catherine's shoulder. "It's all right, sweetheart. I've got you," Catherine whispered. "You're safe." William descended slower, his eyes not leaving Camilla. "What happened?" he said flatly. Camilla straightened. "She slipped. She was pushed," Miss Hensley said immediately, voice steady. "Ask the guard. Ask Charlotte." William turned to Rourke. "Sergeant?" Rourke gave a brief nod. "I observed Her Majesty grab the princess's arm, followed by forward contact. The princess lost footing on the top stair. I intercepted her descent." Catherine pulled Charlotte slightly closer, brushing her hair back gently. "She's trembling," she murmured. "Her pulse is racing." "She's fine," Camilla interjected. "She's always been dramatic." Everyone froze. William's jaw locked. "Charlotte," he said softly. Charlotte didn't lift her head, but her voice emerged from Catherine's coat, barely above a whisper. "She pushed me." It was all she said. William's face shifted. Not into rage, but something far colder. The kind of control that comes only when fury has been suppressed by duty. "Escort Her Majesty from the upper wing," he said, eyes still on Charlotte. Camilla blinked. "William!" "I'll speak with you later," he cut in. "For now, you'll leave." "But this is absurd." His tone didn't change. "Now." Two stewards hesitated, then stepped in, wordless. Camilla stared a moment longer at Rourke, but he didn't move, didn't gloat, didn't lower his eyes. He simply remained exactly where he had stood since the moment Charlotte began to fall. Between her and anything that meant her harm. Camilla didn't move, not at first, not when William gave the order, not even when the two stewards approached her from opposite sides, discreet but unmistakable in their purpose. She looked at William with the brittle disbelief of someone unaccustomed to being dismissed. "I will not be escorted like some—" "You will," he said, calm and quiet, "because my daughter nearly fell down 100 stone stairs, and you were the last person to touch her." Charlotte flinched slightly in her mother's arms. Camilla's gaze darted toward her, then to Rourke, still positioned ahead, like a man not interested in opinions, only outcome. "You're making a mistake," Camilla said, breath sharp. "This is optics over family." William didn't blink. "No," he said, "this is family." One of the stewards stepped closer. "This way, Your Majesty." Camilla held her chin a moment longer. Then, without another word, turned and walked up the stairs she had descended minutes ago. But this time, she was alone. No hand on the railing, no farewell, no title spoken behind her, just steps, measured, cold, final. The corridor quieted. William turned to Sergeant Rourke. You're injured. I'm functional. I'll need a full report. Everything. Names, timings, exact words. You'll have it before midnight, Sia. Charlotte was calmer now, still held close to Catherine, but her breathing had slowed. Her fingers no longer trembled. Rourke glanced down at the stair where she'd first slipped. It hadn't changed, but it felt different now. William turned to him again. I'll speak with internal staff. No announcements, no media. This doesn't leave this corridor unless I say so. Understood. Catherine looked up from Charlotte, her voice gentle but firm. Thank you, she said to Rourke, for seeing her. He dipped his head. Always, ma'am. Charlotte lifted her head briefly. Her eyes met his. Still unsure, still a child, but steadier than before. Will you still be on post? She asked softly. Rourke smiled faintly. I'm not going anywhere. Charlotte nodded once, small but real, and then Catherine led her away, down the safer staircase now, with aides in tow and a physician trailing behind. The hallway emptied slowly, respectfully. Rourke remained where he was, spine straight, one palm resting loosely at his side, breath controlled. No one clapped, no one bowed. But the silence that followed him as he finally descended those stairs was the loudest approval he'd ever heard. Evening settled slowly over Windsor, soft and golden, spilling long shadows through the western windows and bathing the upper corridors in a warm hush. The palace moved with its usual rhythms again, aides shuffling reports, stewards resetting furniture for the next day's functions, murmured conversations trailing off into quieter corners. But along the hollow stair, nothing had returned to routine. The corridor remained silent, clean, undisturbed, except for one figure. Sergeant Elias Rourke stood precisely where he had hours earlier, halfway up the landing, just above the point where Charlotte's foot had first missed the stone. His uniform had been brushed. The fresh scrape on his right forearm was covered beneath a dressing tucked under his ceremonial glove. His posture was unchanged. He hadn't been ordered to resume his post. He had simply returned, not for duty, for closure. From the side wing, footsteps echoed, quiet, rhythmic, and smaller than most. Not rushed, not guarded. Charlotte. She emerged from the private passage beside the drawing gallery, this time without her coat. Her braid had been redone, neater now, and a simple cardigan rested over her shoulders. She walked beside Catherine, close but no longer clinging. Her steps paused when she reached the base of the stair. Catherine didn't prompt her. She waited. Charlotte looked up, eyes searching until they found the red tunic and the tall black bearskin hat. Their gazes met. No one spoke. No one needed to. She didn't smile, no, not fully, but her expression shifted. A flicker of understanding, of safety, of quiet trust. Rourke gave her a small nod, respectful, solemn, but softer than any salute. Charlotte nodded back. Then she turned and walked on, hand tucked lightly into her mother's. No words had been exchanged, but something far more important had been passed between them. Catherine glanced back just once, her eyes catching Rourke's for a breath, and in that shared silence there was gratitude deeper than ceremony. When the corridor was empty again, Rourke finally shifted. One small step forward, then another, his body no longer rigid, no longer waiting. He exhaled, low and even, then resumed his patrol. Because a guard doesn't just stand for the crown. Sometimes he stands for the one who almost fell. Was the guard right to break rank if it meant protecting Princess Charlotte? Should royalty ever be allowed to discipline a child in private without accountability? And who truly crossed the line on that staircase? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone. If you haven't already, tap like, hit subscribe, and make sure the bell icon's turned on so you never miss a Royal Guard story. Share this video with someone who believes duty should always come before power. And while you're here, choose one of the videos now on your screen. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, with a brand new story.